Next up, we'll talk about the instruments that gauge what's happening when we use the yoke, the rudder pedals, and the throttle. Forward thrust from the propeller is measured by the RPM gauge. RPM stands for rotations per minute. The maximum RPM marked on the Cessna 172 is 3,000 RPM. The gauge will tell you the RPM as well as give you colored ranges. The green range is the safe operating range, and the red is the high range. The only time you should be in the high range is in takeoff, climb, and go around. Sustained time in the high range can be damaging to the aircraft, so it's critical that you lower the RPM into the safe green range. Takeoff and climb out are short periods of time where you should be in the red. Once you're 500 to 1,000 feet above the ground, you should reduce the RPM to the high green section. RPMs don't tell you your speed, but rather how fast the propeller is moving. To tell your speed, you look at the airspeed indicator. In the Cessna 172, the main airspeed indicator is on the G1000, and it is a tape-style indicator that scrolls up and down depending on the speed you're at. It also has a backup steam gauge. This is a simple dial with an arrow. The airspeed indicator also has colored ranges. The first range is the solid red range. This is a range where flight is not sustainable. At this range, your aircraft will stall in the sky, but it is a range for taxiing. The next range is the white range, which is the range where it's safe to use the flaps. Once the white range is exceeded, your flap settings must be set to 0, also known as clean configuration. After white is the green range. This is the safe operating range for clean configuration or 0 flaps. As you can see, there's a range where it is green and white. The green side represents safe operation for 0 flaps, and at the bottom of this green side is the stalling speed for 0 flaps. At the bottom of the white solid section is the stalling speed when you do have flaps engaged. Next comes yellow. This is a warning area. Though the aircraft can handle these speeds, you're running a higher risk, and jerky movements of the yoke or stick can lead to high levels of stress on the aircraft's frame. The red and white striped range is dangerous and should be avoided. If you find yourself in the red and white striped range, reduce throttle immediately and avoid jerking movements from the stick or yoke. There are also specific speeds marked on the airspeed indicator for specific phases of flight. These are called V speeds. V stands for velocity. The marked speeds in the Cessna 172 are VR, which is the speed you should rotate or pitch up at when you're taking off. Vx is the best angle of climb. This is used to gain as much altitude as possible over a short distance. The most common reason to climb at Vx is to climb above a nearby obstacle. Vy is the best rate of climb. This is used to achieve the fastest climb over the shortest amount of time. Finally, Vg, which is the best glide speed. This is used to cover maximum distance in a glide. These markings will be located at the proper speed for the given aircraft. There are two major things that affect airspeed. There's the throttle setting and your pitch angle. The more throttle you put in, the faster your speed will be. The less throttle you put in, the slower the speed will be. When it comes to pitching, a higher nose-up angle will give you less speed, and a lower nose-down angle will give you a faster speed. The airspeed indicator also has what's called a trend vector. This is a purple line that shows you where you're going to be 6 seconds from now based on the current acceleration or deceleration. The steam gauge airspeed indicator is at the bottom of the instrument panel. This backup airspeed indicator has much of the same, except for the trend vector and the V speeds. Also, the lower red section is not present, and the red and white striped area is just marked by a single red line. Now let's look at the instruments that apply to turning. The first instrument is the heading indicator. The Cessna 172 has a horizontal situation indicator.
The thing that separates a horizontal situation indicator from a heading indicator is that the horizontal situation indicator has navigation built into it. Since we're not going into navigation in this aspect, we'll go ahead and call it the heading indicator. The heading indicator is a 360-degree compass. At the very top of the indicator is your current 3-digit heading with an arrow pointing to the wheel. This tells you the exact heading you're on. The wheel turns as you turn in the sky, and the box changes on every degree change that you make. The wheel is broken up into sections. First, you have north, south, east, and west. These are indicated by the first letter of the direction. If you're not familiar with compasses, the 4 cardinal directions are broken down into 90 degrees. East is 090 or 90 degrees, south is 180, west is 270, and north is 360 or 0. The next section is broken down even further, representing a change of 30 degrees around the wheel. The number is abbreviated by taking the last 0 off of every number. 3 represents 030 or 30 degrees. 6 represents 060 or 60 degrees. 090 is due east, so it's already represented by an E for east. 12 represents heading 120, and so on and so forth. Now let's break it down even further. In between every 30 degrees is 2 10-degree markings. These are the longer lines without a letter or numerical marking. Here we have 10 degrees, next is 20, then 30 degrees is already marked by 3, then there's 40, and so on. In between each 10-degree mark is an even shorter line representing 5 degrees. So here we have 5 degrees, next is a long line representing 10, then 15, 20, 25, and 30, so on and so forth. The 5-degree mark is the lowest marking. In between these lines, you have to estimate. However, if you are on that heading, the box at the top will represent that. Inside the circle, you will see 4 small circles, an airplane, and a purple or green arrow that spans the indicator. This is your VOR and GPS navigation. This is the aspect that actually makes this instrument the horizontal situation indicator, like we spoke about before. We'll go into this in another video. Next is a blue marking. This is a bug. It's used to mark the direction you want to fly in. Bugs are present on the heading indicator, the airspeed indicator, and the altimeter. We'll go into bugs in another video. Next, let's talk about the turn coordinator. The turn coordinator on the Garmin G1000 is represented by a purple trend vector line at the top of the horizontal situation indicator wheel. Just like the airspeed indicator, it tells you where you will be in a given amount of time. There are 2 lines on either side of the triangle. These represent a half standard rate turn and a standard rate turn. A half standard rate turn is 1.5 degrees of turn every second. This will take you 4 minutes or 240 seconds to make a 360-degree turn or 1 full circle. A standard rate turn is the standard turning rate in aviation. It is 3 degrees of turn per second and takes 2 minutes or 120 seconds to make a full 360-degree turn, 1 full circle. If you want to fly like a professional, shoot for this in your turns. Now let's talk about the slip skid indicator. This instrument is located on the bottom arrow of the attitude indicator. We'll go over the attitude indicator in another video. An aircraft has certain forces that can make an aircraft move forward at an angle. This video gives you a dramatized version of what that looks like. The slip skid indicator tells you how angled you are. The instrument is very simple. The goal is to have the bottom part of the arrow directly lined up with the top part of the arrow. If it's too far left, you add left rudder pedal. If it's too far right, you add right rudder pedal. When you're in a slip or a skid, it's usually very slight and only needs minor adjustments. In steam gauge cockpits, the turn indicator and the slip skid indicator are represented by one gauge. This section represents the turn indicator, and it only has standard rate turns marked. When the aircraft's wing touches the lower line on either side, you are making a standard rate turn. The ball in the middle of the two lines is the slip skid indicator. Just like the G1000, you want this ball to be centered in between the two lines. Next, we'll look at the altimeter. The altimeter tells you how high you are. It's measured in MSL, which stands for mean sea level. This is how high above the sea you are. It's used because sea level stays consistent, whereas ground level changes depending on whether you're above a mountain or a low valley. Another measurement of height is AGL, or above ground level. So if you're 5,000 feet on the altimeter, which is mean sea level, or MSL, and the ground elevation is 2,000 feet, you're really 3,000 feet above ground level. The altimeter is like an airspeed indicator. It scrolls up and down as you climb or descend. The long lines represent hundreds of feet. Here, we're at 7,000 feet. The next long line above that is 7,100, and the next long line above that is 7,200. In between the long lines are four smaller lines. These represent 20 feet. So just above 7,000 is 7,020, then 7,040, 7,060, 7,080, and finally 7,100, where there's another long line. The box in the middle tells you the exact altitude in factors of 20. The altimeter also has a purple trend vector line. This tells you where you're going to be in 6 seconds from now, as long as you keep the same attitude and speed. On the steam gauge version of the altimeter, there are 3 hands that tell you how high you are. The shortest arrow represents tens of thousands of feet. The fatter middle length arrow represents thousands, and the long skinny one represents hundreds as well as factors of 20. To read, you first look at the arrow that represents the tens of thousands. This is below 0, so it cancels out. The middle length arrow is above 7, so we know it's 7,000. The long hundreds arrow is above 5, so it's 7,500. And finally, the exact mark is 3 lines up. So the first short line represents 20, the second is 40, and finally the next is 60. Put it all together and you get 7,560 feet MSL. On the side of the altimeter is the vertical speed indicator, or VSI. The vertical speed indicator tells you how many feet per minute you will climb if you keep your current attitude and speed. This is much like the trend vector line, but it gives you estimations in minutes rather than seconds. The large line represents thousands of feet. Here you have 1,000, then 2,000. The small lines in between represent 500 feet. Here you're climbing at 500 feet per minute, then 1,000, then 1,500, and finally 2,000 feet per minute. Small propeller planes like the Cessna 172 commonly max out their climb capability before the 1,000 feet per minute mark. The box on the side rises up and down and tells you your current feet per minute in hundreds of feet. Keep an eye on your airspeed indicator to make sure your speed is not dropping too low. The faster you climb, the lower your airspeed will be. The faster you descend, the faster your airspeed will be.
The attitude indicator tells you what attitude your airplane is currently in. It's broken down into 2 aspects. First, nose up or nose down. Second, left or right bank. The vertical lines represent nose up and nose down in degrees. The artificial horizon represents the 0 mark on the vertical scale. The brown aspect represents ground, and the blue aspect represents sky. Here we are at 0 degrees. 90 degrees nose up represents the nose of the aircraft pointing straight up into the sky. The inverse is 90 degrees down, and that represents the aircraft pointing straight down at the earth.
Depending on the aircraft that you're flying, the lines may represent different degrees on the horizontal part of the attitude indicator. In Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024's G1000 version of the attitude indicator, the small lines represent factors of 2.5 degrees, and the long lines represent factors of 5. Here we have 2.5, then 5, then 7.5 degrees nose up, so on and so forth. Below we have 2.5, then 5 degrees nose down. The tip of the arrow tells you where you are on the vertical degrees. Here we are on the artificial horizon, so it's 0 degrees.
Now let's look at the horizontal scale. This represents bank, which is how you turn. The top arrow represents 0, and the bottom arrow tells you what degree of bank you are on. The lines on the horizontal part of the attitude indicator are broken down a little different. The long lines represent factors of 30, so here we have 30 degrees, and then 60 degrees. The small lines before the 30-degree mark represent factors of 10. Here we have 10, then 20, and finally the long line represents 30 degrees like we spoke about before. The short line in between 30 degrees and 60 degrees represents 45 degrees. Anything above 60 degrees is excessive and potentially dangerous. Now that you have both scales, here's a basic breakdown of the attitude indicator and normal potential attitudes you may find yourself in. Note that the steam gauge is basically the same as the G1000 version.
Now let's look at the gauges of the cockpit and where they are located. The primary flight display holds almost all the gauges we spoke of. Here is the airspeed indicator. Next to it is the attitude indicator. Within the attitude indicator is the slip skid indicator. Next to the attitude indicator is the altimeter. Next to the altimeter is the vertical speed indicator. Below is the horizontal situation indicator. We looked at the heading indicator aspects of it, so you can use it as a heading indicator. Within it is also the turn coordinator. Next to the PFD or primary flight display is the MFD or multifunction display. In the top left corner is the RPM gauge. Below these screens are the backup steam gauges, which consist of the backup airspeed indicator, the backup attitude indicator, and the backup altimeter. Now that you know how to read the fundamental instruments, your flight sim experience should be much more manageable. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment.